Good evening, everybody. It's We Talking About Sports. It's Thursday evening. It's Friday Eve, about to get to the weekend, and we're here for a little MMA tap hour, talk a little UFC 311, Makachev versus Arman Sarchukian. Gonna butcher that all night.
Yeah.
This is actually a rematch, so title fight once again. First time wasn't a title fight, but we got a rematch here. Ben, you excited to break this down? How are you doing tonight?
Dude, I'm really excited. I'm doing good. One more, what is it? Two more sleeps until
Two
we
more
get to
sleeps? Yep.
Saturday. We got a lot early football, Texans and Chiefs, followed by some UFC and some football. It's going to be one of those two TV kind of nights. Might start the pit, but really looking forward to it. I mean, we got some Valley fighters, on
Yep.
a Valley fighter on the card as well. So,
Shout out
uh,
CDL.
yeah, this is one where I think every fight is going to be a really good fight.
Yeah, man, this card is stacked from the early prelims, the prelims all the way down to the main card. Definitely going to be one that you want to be in your seats for. Starting probably like right around 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock, because you don't want to miss a fight on this card. This is the second official card of the year, first pay-per-view. We had Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Ribas kick us off last weekend. Mackenzie Dern came through with the third round submission. Ben, just real quick on that, hearing a lot of people talk about Mackenzie Dern. A lot of people are on, separate sides of the spectrum with her. Like they're either hard believers or they're just like, hey, this girl's never going to get it going on the feet. After her performance last weekend, where do you see her? Do you think she's going to be fighting for a title soon? Do you think she's done enough to set herself up?
Yeah, she's very she's a prime prospect for the UFC to push. You know what I mean? She's got pretty much she just needed to stack up some good wins, but I think that she is the type of fighter where the UFC is going to push her. I think she's got a title shot. If she just sits out, she could fight for the belt. Her next fight, I think that's definitely in the cards for her. And I don't think that the UFC minds it. She's never fought for the belts, new blood. And like I said, it's somebody that, you know, I think that she was the reason, the women's fight was being headlined.
Oh yeah,
I
for sure.
know she's not like, the most elite of the elite fighters just yet. I mean, she's yet to prove it because she hasn't become a champion, but she's somebody that always had big and very high hopes, as a prospect coming into the UFC. So for her to get the submission win against Amanda Ribas is pretty impressive. That's, one of the top five gatekeepers. So I think if she just sits out and waits, she can be fighting for a title next.
Yeah, impressive win for her. Definitely, one of those, what you'd like to call in the UFC a specialist. Don't really want to go down to the ground with her because she's gonna have her way down there. And saw what she was able to do right before the buzzer. But yeah, I just wanted to touch base on that because that did kick us off for the UFC season here in 2025. But a lot has happened since the last time we have logged on for an MMA tap hour. Pantoja, he fought some new blood. Speaking of, getting new blood into, the championship fights, the men's flyweight division. No different. They got a guy straight from another company and another fight promotion, straight from Risen, Asakura, to come in and fight Pantoja. What were your thoughts on that, Ben? Were you more impressed with Pantoja, or did you come away a little impressed with the newcomer? He kind of held his own for a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that he was going to have a shot, but I mean, as soon as Pantoja was able to get him to the ground, he was able, to really dominate on the ground. And for Pantoja, I mean, I think that he's kind of establishing himself. You know what I mean? He's got a pretty good overall game. We remember when he won the belt, the speech about him, about his dad.
Yep.
Are you proud of me now? So he's a guy that you can really get behind. These lighter weights, they're trying anything. Guys straight out of Risen for a title shot. It's you might as well had he won, what Risen would have had, maybe they lost the fighter, but they would have had to claim, hey, we have talent that can beat the UFC also.
Yeah.
Kind of a risky thing for Dana to do, and that's pretty much what it was if you think about it. An automatic title shot straight off being signed is pretty wild.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it also, just speaks to Pantoja, quite possibly, on his way to cleaning out that division. They just got to find guys for him. And shout out to him because they did headline that card. So good performance for him in a headlining spot there. Shavkat, guy that we've all been excited for, finally getting his chance to also be part of that headliner. I think he co-headlined that Pantoja card that we just talked about right now, in a fight with Ian Gary. And I kind of have a take here. I don't know if you'd agree, but did you come away more disappointed with Shavkat, or could you also make the argument that Ian Gary kind of impressed a little bit too? Because he looked like a fish out of water, like some people thought that he might have with Shavkat and the way that he's been finishing everybody.
I think it's both, but I think some respect to Ian Gary. It was, kind of a more boring fight. We expected fireworks, but it wasn't. It was decent,
It was
but
an Ian Gary fight almost.
yeah,
Right?
it was him sitting on the outside for the most part. But at the same time, it just proved that Shavkat. I mean, everybody thinks he's this big bad killer, and nobody respects Ian Gary, and he couldn't get Ian Gary out of there. It was a fight where people did come out saying, "Oh shit, I earned some respect for Ian Gary after this fight." But everybody had Shavkat as being this killer, and should I stand by it when Bilal's waiting for the date, and when he gets the date. Give me Bilal against Shavkat, bro.
Yeah, honestly, that's another take that you can come away with after watching that fight. That Bilal probably stands a good chance. If not, he might be favored in that fight against Shavkat. I don't know if I'd go all the way there
No
because I
shot
still
he's
think
favored.
yeah because
We got to get that
he's
dog
got
money.
a lot of respect in Vegas. Shavkat does, so he probably does come in the favorite. But you got to like Bilal's chances there for sure. And then last but not least, want to give a shout out to a UFC stalwart here in the women's division. Kind of calling it quits to the UFC. Here it says that she's requested her release. Ben, is it retirement? Is she going to get into some boxing? Do you care?
I 100% don't care. I will say though, I mean, we went to the UFC in San Antonio.
Yeah,
and
she
fought
was
there. So
yeah.
we got to see her maybe 3 years ago. I think
Shout
it
out
was 2
Holly
years
Holm.
ago.
Yeah, shout out Holly Holm though for sure.
We got to see her fight in a fight that she dominated, and we all had some action on it in the stands. So we were able to celebrate her win. Her just straddling over the other chick. I forgot who she was fighting that night, but it was a boring one, but it was an easy one. I do think that she's gonna go on to something else. I don't know, maybe if it's another MMA league, but like you mentioned, boxing, I see that as a possibility. But I think she would have just retired from the UFC. Why would she request a release from the UFC if she didn't, want to go on to something else? She's
bare
always
knuckle?
been in the shit. I can't see her doing bare knuckle. I'm the preacher's daughter in the bare knuckle fights. So they'd make a movie out of her if she went and did that shit. One of those private fights with Mike Perry, you know what I mean? Something like that.
So dirty boxing, yeah, that'd be something. But shout out to Holly Holm, man. I mean, she for sure is a Hall of Famer. She has one of the most memorable fights of all time with what she did to Ronda Rousey, who at that time was the boogeyman and was coming into fights as crazy
Hall
favorites.
of Famer.
And she was getting by for some time, including that fight that we did watch of her in UFC San Antonio by just, kind of being better than the other girl, just I don't know, like outpointing the other person to a fight, just controlling it and not really doing much.
She can stick to a game plan.
Yeah, stick to a game plan. Holly Holm, shout out to her, Hall of Famer, great career. But yeah, definitely time for her because you could tell there towards the end it was just a little too much. All right, well, let's get into it. Straight to the main card. We are going to touch base on the prelims and the early prelims at the end of the fight because there are some fights that we do want to talk about on that. But it's straight to business here. It's the main card, and we're starting off with Manny Mociano. Renato Marciano on a good run right here. Moicano. Ben, you're gonna have to get me on these Brazilian names here, and probably a lot of these.
I like that's kind of like Luciano.
There's some pronunciations in here that I'll struggle with for sure. And then now simpler one here. Probably still not gonna get his first name correct, but Beneil Dariush is on the other side here. Coming in with a 2-fight loss streak, and I was just looking at it before those 2 losses that he had to Arman, who's fighting for the championship, and Charles Oliveira. Beneil Dariush was on an 8-fight win streak. He was setting himself up for big things here in the UFC, then kind of hit a skid, hasn't fought since December of 23. I think that's the story here. Comes in as a short underdog. Moicano, as Ben corrected me, comes in on a 4-fight win streak against some good guys. And I think the last one, he might have come into that fight as an underdog against BSD. Everybody had high hopes for him. The money man. I'm not going to try his last name again for this breakdown. Moicano, the money man, took care of business. Upset. He's a sticky grappler, as people like to say. Once he gets on top of you, he stays there and he can dominate. He takes damage though, so maybe Dariush has a chance here. Ben, before I give my take, what's your thoughts on this fight? I would be hard pressed to think that you disagree with the line, but what's your thought on the line, and where do you see this fight going?
Yeah, and first we got Josh in the comments also shouting out Holly Holm, saying that UFC San Antonio Parlay Cash.
Shout out Josh.
Josh was there with us.
Yeah,
that
Josh was
night.
there. Shout out Josh. Shout out Gabe. He was there. Shout out
Josh
Rowan.
was early getting those pictures with Marab, who's on the card tonight. Josh, post that. Josh will post that in the group chat like Saturday morning. Just him and
the machine.
Marab and the machine. Facts. But yeah, back to this fight. Money Moicano and Beneil Dariush. Shit, Josh also went and had lunch with Beneil Dariush.
Yeah, true.
After shit, Josh's jersey might be in the UFC rafters one day. Also.
For sure. Fan Hall of Fame, for sure.
Yeah, but to your point, Roland, I do kind of agree with the line because Beneil Dariush, I just think that he's at that old man stage already. I think that he's a little past his prime. Moicano, on the other hand, while he does do his best work on the ground, I mean, Dariush is a guy that we've seen, control another guy that we're going to talk about on the show later from the Valley, but Carlos Diego on the ground for the most part, and get a decision win over Carlos Diego. So Moicano, his best path to victory is usually on the ground. Beneil Dariush being subbed is kind of hard to see. It's more of like he can't take a shot as well anymore. So, we have Moicano doesn't have the biggest power. He has dropped a couple of guys, but he's more known for strangling people. I think that the line is a little steep, honestly. I would like it more of a pick'em because Moicano getting his finishes on the ground and Dariush being that good on the ground. I think if it's a stand-up fight, it might kind of be anybody's fight. Moicano has been rocked in several fights.
I mean, Jalen Turner, had he not walked away, he might have won that fight.
But we're also talking about like Jalen Turner, who's like a prime athlete,
for sure. But
compared here to Dariush. So for that reason, I am going to go with Moicano, but I'm kind of just going to stay away and watch this fight, rooting for Moicano getting some mic time.
Yeah, this one, I'm with you. It's hard for me to bet on the money man at this price. It's a little steep. I like him to win the fight. So for the sake of the breakdown, I do like him to win this fight. It just scares me because he does take damage in his fights in order to get in and, get to the positions that he needs to, get into the clinch, take the guy down. Sometimes it takes, some damage to get there, some wear and tear. And, Dariush, while he hasn't been in the UFC in a little while, hasn't fought since 2023. He is known, or not known, but he has had some highlight reel moments. I mean, he is part of that meme with Joe Rogan. He was part of that. He was the
loss
guy
to Arman was bad.
Yeah, bad loss to Arman for sure. And the reason why I ultimately think the money man's going to win here, Moicano, is because I don't know if Dariush is all the way in at this stage in his career. I'm not questioning that, but once you get to that stage, it's like, are you taking fights just to, hey, like, I'm fighting out my contract and then we're going to see where we go from there. Kind of like if I win, hey, we'll continue on and go on a run. If I take a loss, am I going to step back and think about what I'm doing here? So for those reasons, I'm going to take Moicano, 4-fight win streak. The guy, he's fighting for something. In terms of like he's trying to set himself up for a lightweight championship fight. He's fighting on the main card of of a lightweight title fight. So perfect opportunity for him. Hopefully he capitalizes and buy some more crypto.
I will say that for Beneil, like I think that this kind of might be the end of the road.
Yeah, it's one of those.
I think that he's kind of on his way out. All he's ever done is fight. Really humble guy. I mean, to invite Josh and fans just to show up and have lunch with him, I mean, that's pretty humble as a professional UFC fighter. So, shout outs to him.
Yeah.
He looks like a guy who makes good business decisions, who hasn't blown through his cash, just being, that humble kind of family man. But I do see it kind of being that if he loses here to Moicano, what's left for him? He is a guy that, was on an 8-fight win streak, never fought for the title, didn't get that title shot, was kind of like Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, they put him through the ringer, making him trying to get to that title fight. I mean, his last 2 was against Charles and Arman. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think that this is the tail end of his career. But like I said, Moicano's strength being on the ground and Dariush being as good as he is on the ground, I'll just root for Moicano.
There we go. All right, well, let's get to this next fight. Don't think it's going to hit the mats. Both these guys like to do their work standing up. It's none other than Jamal Hill and Jiri Prochazka. I want to say they were supposed to link up earlier in the year, or Jamal Hill had another fight. He got injured. Look at this fight. age, 33, 32, similar height and reach, no real advantage there. Jamal Hill, this did open. I want to say to pick him, so the line has moved in his favor, minus 135. And plus 114 for Yuri, the last samurai on the comeback. These guys, both their last fights are losses to Alex Pereira. Before that, Yuri had a win against Alexander Rakic and then lost to Pereira again. So they're both trying to shake, Poatan. They're both trying to shake Chama. Jamal Hill arguably is just getting out of, having, concussion from what happened. Because
also, I think he lost in a different way. Like, I mean, there was kind of a break. There was some confusion.
Yeah, but what I'm saying for me is I like Jamal Hill to win the fight, first of all, but he's been so fixated on what happened back in April. Yeah,
sure.
He's been so fixated up until, even a couple of months ago when we saw him run into to Alex Pereira at the UFC PI. Like, come on, dude. Like, he still had not shook off the knockout until maybe a couple of weeks ago. But I think he's in the right mindset. If he sticks to his game plan, I think in this fight, I see a hard night coming for Yuri. I don't know if he's gonna be able to stick with Jamal on the feet. He's too clean of a striker, and Yuri, he's a guy to me. And Ben, you can give your take after this, but he's a guy to me that he's not going to be able to change his ways at this stage in his career, right? That's what we've been talking about with him coming off of these losses. Once you get to the top, and you just notice that your game might not be good enough to get gold. You're just coming up against a guy. You got to look inwards and see if you can change your game a little bit. I don't know if Yuri can do that at his stage in his career. And I just like this matchup for Jamal Hill here. So I like him, and I like him at the betting windows also.
Yeah, this is more of like a clean, more technical striker against like a unorthodox Tony Ferguson type of guy. You know what I mean? That is going to stick to, like you said, stick to his ways. Not necessarily the oldest guy at 32, but in MMA years, this is kind of like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like, he's going to stand, he's going to throw, he's going to get hit, and he's going to hope that he lands a shot that knocks out, his opponent. But man, I think that he's taken some beatings. He's gotten hit a lot. He's had some injuries. Jamal Hill, albeit I agree that he is very cringe, when he's on camera and he does some very sus things, like, with the whole Alex Pereira stuff. But we can't deny that when he is in the octagon and guys are just going to stand with him, he's more than likely going to get the best of them, unless it's Alex Pereira. Mm-hmm. And we've seen Yuri just get hit too much. I still like it here at minus 135. I know that it's kind of the ass end of the line, but I think that it could still be going up. Like, Jamal Hill isn't the most liked guy. Yuri is kind of like this cult figure, him in the woods and all that shit. So for the line to be moving, it's got to be some respected backers, taking Jamal Hill. So I do like Jamal Hill as well. This is one. This and the next fight are like the things I like the most, but this is a closer line fight, so I really like Jamal Hill Saturday night.
Yeah, Jamal Hill, I think this sets up nicely for him. Just as long as he sticks to his game plan, I think he should walk away with a victory here. 3-round fight. A couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, these guys, are fighting each other for the title potentially. So
and somebody's probably getting memed in this fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't expect this one to see the cards. I really don't expect it to see the cards.
I think it probably ends in the first round. I don't think it gets out the first unless they come out and fight super cautious, which I don't see. I think Yuri's going to try and rush. We'll see what happens, though. Should be a good one either way. Next fight here, first of the 2 title fights. It's Merab Dvalishvili. I'm not going to try it. Merab, the machine, up against Umar Nurmagomedov. I messed up again. Umar Khabib's cousin. He's coming off a win against Corey Sandhagen. Close fight, but he got the best of Corey Sandhagen in that 5-rounder. So he sets himself up here for a title fight with the incumbent Merab. Just got done taking it from Sean O'Malley in his first title defense. He gets Umar. He's plus 225, and that's where I'm going to start with this, Ben. Are you surprised at this line to see Merab come in at this, much steep of an underdog for being the champion and how much of it is just, you know, Umar, his background, the camp that he's fighting out of, just how good of a fighter he truly is, you know, at sticking to a game plan, as there is really in the UFC, other than the next guy that we're going to get ready to talk about. What are your thoughts about this line? Do you agree?
No, I think it's crazy. This is one of those lines that makes you think are those guys serious? And obviously it's their job to make these lines, and maybe I look like the sucker afterwards, but all that I've seen from Marab is he's just made guys look like amateur. Like, you know, he was like plus 300 against Peter Yan a couple, you know, just over a year ago, and he dominated Peter Yan. I think set the record for the most takedowns in the division. Then we saw him against O'Malley, and O'Malley was the favorite. You know, I think it was a little bit closer, but O'Malley was still favorite. But he made O'Malley look like he didn't even belong, bro.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, with Umar over here, who's dressed like he's about to go downtown with Yosh tomorrow night, his best win is Corey Sandhagen. And it was, you know, a fight that, oh shit, Sandhagen fought him tough. You know, what way did this go? I mean, I get the prestige of the last name, Nurmagomedov, and I know DC saying his striking is crazy. He's more of a ground fighter. We know Marab likes to spam the takedowns. I don't expect him to stop spamming takedowns. He's going to keep taking you down. He's going to control you. I think it's just disrespectful line, bro. Like, this guy hasn't – I mean, the most danger he's been in is when he jumped into a frozen lake. It hasn't even been in the octagon. You know,
yeah.
Cejudo had him rattled for a little bit, but it was a dominating performance against Cejudo. Like, every time, whether it ends early or the bell rings, he's just looked like there's no doubt about it. He won the fight
for sure. No, but just playing devil's advocate here, and honestly, it's just still thinking about this fight. I don't know where I'm going to end with my pick, but just playing devil's advocate for you. What do you say to people who say, you know, Marab's been rocked in a couple of fights. He's almost been put out. Marlon Moraes almost put him out. He almost got put out. I'm not going to say he almost got put out. Cejudo rocked him. So that's where I was going with it. I was going to say he was like, oh my gosh, like down to the wire. He was about to get put out, but he did get rocked. What do you say about that? Any worry there? Because I mean, if he is going to spam the takedown, he is going to have to probably withstand some shots. Any worry on that? Because he does kind of go in, and I'm not going to say it because I'm not an expert, but kind of goes in, you know, with
like a bull in a china
yeah,
shop.
He throws a caution to the wind. You know, he just goes for it. Any worries there? Because it is a Nurmagomedov
yeah, but the Nurmagomedovs aren't known for their stand-up either. I think everybody was like, oh, O'Malley's going to catch him. O'Malley's a sniper. I mean, he didn't even give him the opportunity, and it looked like a fight where, like, the guys didn't even – it was like, really? This guy is the challenger and this guy's the champion? I think the line's very disrespectful, dude. Like I said, I might end up looking dumb, but for this guy to – I mean, what has he done to earn a minus 325 line? I think that's crazy, you know, and he just got kicked off a plane with Khabib
I think
weeks ago.
I think that's Vegas, like, not wanting to be wrong almost, right? With, like, setting the line so short for Umar maybe, and then people just spamming him, and he ends up coming away with a win, maybe setting it this high, you know, scare some people. Yeah, true. And, you know, I'm going to, for the purpose of the pod, the breakdown, I'm going to go with Marab here. I do agree with you. He's the champ, 11-fight win streak. Yeah, he's been in trouble sometimes, but he's also willed himself through those troubled times. Like, I mean, I saw the clip, you know, in the lead up to his last fight of when he was getting choked out, and he just starts doing bicycle to stay. I mean, this guy, if there's somebody who wants it and is always going to want it, like, and you can say what you want about what he does on social media, but this guy wants it. Marab, he wants to be the champ. He loves this. You know his story, where he's come from, you know, how hard he fought just to get into the UFC. I don't see this guy relinquishing his title on his first defense, even though you could say that he did kind of politic not to fight Umar. But I think some of that too was, based on he didn't think that Umar had the credence, kind of like what you just got done saying with what has he done to earn this line? Merab was saying, what has he done to earn this title fight? No, without a doubt, like they weren't even questioning that Umar was up next. And so to kind of see both sides to that, but I'm going to go with Merab here. The line is kind of steep, a little disrespectful. So yeah, let's go with Merab. Hopefully he pulls it out for the boys, pulls it out for Josh, so we can see that picture again one more time. Any more thoughts on this fight before we move on, Ben?
No, I think you kind of summed it up there. Like, is it going to be one of those levels fight? Does he really deserve the title shot? Yes, he's had a lot of wins, but your toughest test is Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because the auto rematch wasn't there with O'Malley because he's injured and had to have surgery or whatever. But I think Merab's cardio, and like you said, he's a guy that that he'll die in there. If you're backing him, literally.
Yeah, no, he's gonna leave it all out there, no doubt about it. He's not a guy that that you bet on, and then he has like an off night, and you're like, what the hell's going on? Like the guy's not in it. Like Merab's he's gonna go out and he's gonna for sure put it all out there. So let's see what happens Saturday night with these two. Should be exciting and a little bit of a rivalry here, and even though these guys haven't fought before, so I like the bad blood almost. So let's get to it. This is the main event. Got the special little poster here. It's Arman versus Islam part 2. Islam took care of business in the first one. He's 5 years older than Arman. Got him on the height. Arman has him on reach. The line here, minus 325 for the champ. I mean, he's been through it all. He's fought Volkanovski twice. He's fought the who's who of this division. He fought Charles to get the belt. Really no question about his resume. I think at this point in his career, just got done fighting Dustin Poirier in an exciting fight. Ben, what are your thoughts on the cousin of Khabib here, Islam Makhachev, as a champ? Before we even get into this, where do you see him in the lightweight pantheon, like of just champions in the UFC? Do you think he's already established himself up there as being one of the great champs, or does he still have a little bit more work to do? Because I think he's had some pretty good wins already as the champion.
And I was gonna say, I don't think that the names that he's beaten are like they are going to be Hall of Famers, because Gaethje and Poirier are Hall of Famers, but they're guys that have always just had a big hole in their game, to where if you're able to exploit it, and that's what this guy's game is, it's kind of like an easy win, and he's made him look very easy. So I don't want to, disrespect Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier,
Charles Oliveira.
Charles Oliveira, that's one that you put on the mantle. You know what I mean? That's one of those names for sure. And so are the other guys. It's just the clear advantage and the holes that, Dustin Poirier and Gaethje have. Although Dustin Poirier did, come out of that fight gaining a lot of respect and saying, oh shit, is Islam, he was kind of on the ropes, maybe a couple times in that fight. And we know that the last time him and Sarukian fought, it was a 3-round fight. I think the fact that it's a 5-round fight actually helps Makhachev. Sarukian looks too jacked, bro. There was, pictures going around Instagram and Twitter, and he just looked like, man,
Captain America.
No, yeah, like it looked crazy. He looked like this guy's gonna gas out. He looked like Paulo Costa. It was insane, bro.
Yeah, he's what's going around now about Arman, because the people have been asking him about what his plans are after this fight and whatnot, and it's been coming out that he's like actually like super like filthy rich, like outside of the UFC, like through his family, like doesn't even have to work. Like his dad is like 100 millionaire type of rich.
It's like the other guy that just the guy that beat Holloway, that he just looks like he came from money before he was even champion.
Yeah, and kind of, and not that that's where I'm going with kind of my take here, but also kind of what I'm hearing from Arman, they're asking him what are his thoughts after this fight. He said after this fight, if he wins, all he wants to do is kind of chase big money fights and whatnot. And you got a guy over here in Islam who he's clearly fighting for legacy, and I know that always doesn't matter. It whatever happens once you close the door or the cage in the octagon, that's what matters, and that's what ends up leading to wins and losses. But Islam here, I don't see a hole in his game. I agree with you kind of about just the overall theme for those fighters. They're not the best stand-up guys. They can be had there a little bit, but this guy is just as solid as they come. Like even in those fights against a smaller guy and Alex Volkanovski, I mean, he withstood some stuff, and then in that last fight, guaranteed or considering Volkanovski maybe came in a little too. What was it? That was like 7 days rest or something like that. He came in to save the card. Yeah, the head kick. So the guy's impressive all around. Is kind of just what I'm trying to get to. Arman, his last two, Benyil, and then he beat Charles Oliveira. The resume doesn't stack up with Islam at this point, and I think I agree with the line here, and it's a parlay piece of anything. I think Islam's going to walk away with a victory here. Would you put him in a parlay, or is it just too steep to touch at all?
No, I'd put him in a parlay. I think he's pretty safe. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to be talked about, like, and they'll always talk about Khabib versus him, who is better. I mean, right now, like, dude, I mean, Arman is good, but I mean, like, it's not like you said. He has a win over Charles Oliveira. His last
it was a close fight too.
Charles and so was the last one against Beneil Dariush. We're just talking about Beneil Dariush, possibly being on the tail end of his career. I just, this one is weird because it's like Merab is kind of like Makhachev in the co-main. And Arman is kind of like the new guy, like Umar is, but the odds are completely flipped. I would honestly expect Merab to be a favorite as a champion with the prospect coming up, because I think that Umar's best win is just as good as Sarukian's best win in Oliveira.
Yeah.
If not, I mean, Oliveira might even be a better win than
Sandhagen. Yeah.
Sandhagen. So, and this guy's a dog. So I know we're talking about Makhachev and the Georgian and Merab, but I really hold Merab like at a very high standard, bro. I'm very surprised by those odds, but I do think Islam, if you want to parlay him with any NFL this weekend, I know a lot of you who aren't Texans fans, if you want to put him possibly with the Chiefs and hope that a miracle happens and the Texans don't win, Makhachev and the Chiefs might not be the worst.
Yeah, no, that should be a good little parlay piece for sure. Islam's going to get it done here, and then we'll see what's next. The reason why I asked about kind of where you think about him as a all-time great is the lightweight division. That's murderer's row. I mean, it's arguably one of the best, if not the best division in the UFC. Dating back to, I mean, your boys' days, El Kukui, when he was racking up his streak. I mean, there's murderers in this division, and so I just got to give respect to Islam for staying up there. Let's see what's next for him. 33 years old. Don't know how much longer he's going to fight. Maybe he sets to the sunset like Khabib did. But let's see what happens on Saturday night first. All right, let's get to it. We still got a couple more fights to talk about. I'm not going to spend too much time. The other main card fight that we didn't break down is a pick'em right now. So a lot of people are going to have an opinion on this fight come fight night and probably bet on it. It's Kevin Holland versus the Frenchman. I don't know his first name. I know it's De Ridder. Impressive wrestler. Gonna want to try and take you down. Kevin Holland, we all know he kind of struggles from wrestling with wrestlers from time to time. Has good takedown defense one night. The next night he's on his back. Ben, what are your thoughts coming into this fight? I know you had an opinion before we logged on.
Yeah. Also, I mean, the fights being in LA is kind of, well, maybe we'll see a tribute, but it's also kind of strange that it just so happened the UFC going to LA, in the midst of all these fires going down in LA. I'm not the biggest geography guy, so I don't know how close Inglewood is to all of that, but I mean, it's kind of a coincidence. But getting back to the fight, I mean, Kevin Holland, I think that Kevin Holland is just trying to become this prize fighter, this guy that just puts on good fights. I mean, you do kind of got to win to do that, but I don't think that winning is a top priority. I think he's more in for, possibly getting the bonus for, fight of the night or just being in good fights. He doesn't always.
You just released a rap video.
Oh, I haven't seen it. But De Ridder, he's a wrestler. I do like him to get Kevin Holland down. Maybe not in the first round. He'll probably have to withstand some stand-up in the first round, but second and third round, I mean, we've known that Kevin Holland's, kryptonite has been getting taken down to the ground. DC always talked to him about his, takedown defense. It has gotten a little bit better. He went and trained out there with them, but I expect him. I expect DeRitter to stick to a game plan and fight a more technical fight. While Kevin Holland's going to be talking in the crowd, he's going to be talking to him during the fight when he lands maybe a leg kick, that sounds loud and the crowd goes woo to. He'll get to talking, but I think in the long run, DeRitter's going to fight the better fight, and on pick him, I do like him here.
All right, well, we got a pod bet on our hands because I'm going with Kevin Holland here. I think we're gonna get a night of him, withstanding the takedowns, kind of holding his own there with the takedown defense, and fighting the fight, standing up kind of at his pace at range. Yeah, give me Kevin Holland here to give us another exciting night, or in another exciting fight rather. Only 32 years old, like Ben said, kind of a prize fighter at this point, but still got a lot of gas in the tank. And if he can, keep the fight standing, I like his chances here. So give me Kevin Holland at pick'em. Me and Ben got a pod bet. Let's see, we got another one here for the prelims. So prelims, like we said, this is pretty stacked. I don't think that recent Dumas fight is up anymore. I know that fight got canceled, but got an exciting prospect here, Ben. I don't know how well-versed you are. You're probably more well-versed than me on this guy, but I've heard a lot about him. I'm going with Talbot versus Barcelos. What do you think about the prospect in Talbot? Do you see him, eventually, making his way onto a main card and potentially fighting some contenders in the next year or two?
Yeah. Peyton Talbot, he's a product of Dana White's Contender Series. He looked pretty good on Contender Series. He's one of those guys that looks very calm in the pocket, looks very calm when he's fighting. Striking, I mean, he just throws a lot. This is going to be a good fight. I like him to win this fight. I think he's a parlay piece. I'm not current on
he's minus 1100. I think I saw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's go. Let's go with the unders. I think that he gets this guy out of there. He's just looked like a Terminator at that weight class. He's very big for the weight class. Dana White Contender Series has been shitted on a bit for Dana handing out so many contracts. Every night there's 4 or 5 guys getting signed. But this was one of the guys that does look really good, has a lot of potential, and I think people are excited for. As you see, minus 1100 odds.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's an exciting fighter. Has a look to him too. The long hair got a, like I said, just kind of got a look to him that the UFC can kind of get behind and market. So exciting fight style. Definitely want to see this fight here on the prelims. As you can see here, get started 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Early prelims starting a little bit earlier, obviously at 5 p.m. But Ben, you teased it earlier. CDF is fighting Carlos Diego Ferreira against Grant Dawson. Ferreira coming off a win in his last fight, kind of a back against the wall situation. He was in a losing streak at that point. People were, contemplating whether or not he was going to be in the UFC past that fight. He was, I think I want to say 3-fight losing streak at that point. Didn't know how he was going to come in, but he came into that fight, pretty much with a fight or flight mentality, came in there and took care of business. He was a man on a mission. And when he's piecing it together, he's a dangerous fighter. I mean, he's not really a lot talked about in like the mainstream UFC, but guys who are watching, they know this guy can put it together. Ben, what are your thoughts on this fight? Are you betting on your boy? The money's on him so far. He opened up like over plus 200. I checked right now before we got on. He's like plus 195. You going to sprinkle a little bit on that Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, I for sure will. I think that, when you want to take him is when he's a dog. He tends to come up pretty big as an underdog. Like you said, the line's already coming down, so that's a telltale sign. For Dawson, I mean, Dawson's a wrestler, and Diego's a BJJ black belt. I think that he feels comfortable when he's on the ground, whether it be in his back and Dawson in his guard. But it's not like, yeah, maybe you get a little nervous. Oh, he's too comfortable on his back. But he's the type of fighter that that he goes for the finishes on the ground. And, standing up, he surprises. We saw the knockout of Michael Johnson. He has hands. We know that he trains at Fortis MMA with Saif Sayud when he's, in fight camp. So I like him here. I like him as a dog. He's a guy that, I don't want to bring the mood down, but we don't know how many more fights we have of him. I know that he just won, but he's probably got one more contract in him. So for us that are from the Valley and we know that he resides over there. Anytime that he fights, we make sure to tune in. Even dating back to the Navy, when he was making his debuts, I remember going to the Buffaloes and being like, "No, this guy, he's representing back home right now, Brazil. He's from Brazil originally, but." Whole family. He's made a living down in the Valley.
Yeah,
so
and he reps the Valley for sure.
You always got to root for somebody, from the Valley. We're not going to be that hater mentality. So yeah, I'm on Diego here.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be taking him Saturday night. I like the way this sets up for him. Grant Dawson, he's one of those guys that he's almost like prospect level, like a guy that the UFC kind of wants to get behind, I think, a little bit. So see if CDF can kind of derail that. He's a guy, he's fought the who's who. I'd say
he will be the bigger guy.
Who?
Grant Dawson.
Yeah, he's going to want to be the guy that takes the fight down to the floor. But I don't know. I like CDF here as a dog, plus 195. I think those are pretty good odds. Ben, any other fights here on the prelims you want to touch base on? Anything you want to leave us with as we get here close to 9 o'clock?
Yeah, I think that the Johnny Walker one as well got canceled.
Yes.
Do you know what the line is on Almeida and Spivak?
I think Almeida, I want to say, is like minus 400 range, something like that. Yeah.
Parlay piece with Islam also, throw him in there with the Lions and Islam. But I think Almeida is going to be able to take that fight to the ground. We know Spivak's a taller guy, so there's a lot of legs and, hips to drive him down to the ground. I think Almeida will be spamming takedowns and for the most part be on top. Reese also has been a guy, pretty good prospect. He's been, I think this is his second or third fight in the UFC, but he looked really good in his first one. Big favorite, and he's fighting Dumas.
I think that fight got canceled.
Well, that one ended. Oh, I knew Johnny Walker got canceled. So damn, 2 fights got canned. That sucks. Dude.
Yeah, Dumas and the Walker fight. I know they both pulled out. I don't know they were able to find replacements for Reese and Guskov to keep their fights. That's always unfortunate when guys pull out close to fight week. Guys have put in a lot of work, and sometimes they don't always get paid. In these situations, I know the UFC tries to do right by them, but it's probably not their show money or their full paycheck at that point. So, yeah, should be an exciting first pay-per-view of the year. UFC 311. Hopefully, the UFC leaves the Apex sometime soon. We get some UFC in Texas in the next couple months. That'd be exciting. Maybe a card here in San Antonio would be something to look forward to.
Austin or SA.
Yeah, Ben, anything else you want to touch base on? Not related to UFC specifically, but just anything you want to leave us with?
No, like I said, just excited for that playoff football. If you haven't seen the playoff show, we did do a Tuesday night show where we kind of made our predictions for, these divisional rounds?
Yeah, the divisional rounds. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, we got football on Saturday, we got UFC, and then we got football on Sunday. So, man, I'm ready to get tomorrow started, get Friday over with, and start this weekend, honestly.
Yeah, man. The weekend's almost here. Going to be exciting all the way through, and even to Monday night. We got the national championship, so going to be a fun couple of days of sports, and we'll be here to talk about it with you guys next week, recap it, and get ready for the conference championships there for the AFC and NFC. So it's been fun, guys. We got UFC 311. It's been a fun MMA tap hour. We're coming up on 9 o'clock, and it's been a great night. Talk to you guys soon.
Peace.